Hello, Trace Perot here. I almost said Trace Papaya, which brings us to the point of this video, which is going to be very short. I have started to make some green papaya salad. I've never done it before. I'm missing a lot of the traditional ingredients, plus a lot of the traditional ingredients I don't eat, like sesame oil and stuff like that. So I'm going to come up with a green papaya salad recipe par excellence over the next month or so. And but I'll show you what I came up with. See that back there? That's a silkscreen print. Just as a side note. See that up there? Let's see if we can get a better view of it. Whoop, wrong way. That is a silkscreen print. All right, I've got about 10 of those, I think. That was one of the most difficult silkscreens I've ever done. It's quite large, as you can see, and it's kind of oriental. It's a vase. Come on. I don't know what I do here. Can't get this thing to, oh, there it is. God damn. Hard to control this thing. So that is a vase sitting on a table with a flower. And in the background there's some sort of, could be like an aquarium with some kind of seaweed thing in it. Or it could be just some red leaves of like a tea plant in the garden with some blue stone or blue tile in the background. Anyways, it's very abstract, very oriental. I love oriental art, and it's in a lot of my artwork. Anyways, I thought I'd show you that. But what I really wanted to show is the following. I wanted to show this little thing in my kitchen here. Well, it's not little. It's what? It's about 18 by 30, maybe? 18 by 20. This is a pastel done with my fingers and some pastel. Pastel is just dry paint. And it's fixed with a Krylon, clear Krylon finish, and it's under glass, so there's a little bit of reflection. But this is something I did about a year before I wound up in the Southwest, and I was in Santa Barbara doing this, that, and the other thing, and this just kind of came into my head. I just had this vision of the Southwest, right? So let's pick this apart a little bit. So here we have the head of the coyote, and in the background is kind of a southwestern landscape, okay? I hadn't been there since I was a little kid, so I really didn't know what the landscape looked like. Anyways, we got some hieroglyphics, and then right here we have a little, like, papoose with a baby, okay? And then we have some more hieroglyphics, and then we have this stunning, slightly distorted Indian woman, Native American woman, purple dress, green shawl. And as we move over, we see the legs and the humpback of the coyote. And as we move across, we have some design elements. What is this up here? I'm not sure even what that is. It's just design. This is sort of India, sort of like Navajo, right? This was heavily influenced by Navajo Navajo rug making. So here's the rear end of the coyote with his two legs, and he's sort of butted up against an adobe structure. And there's the entrance to the adobe. It's looking through, apparently, to some kind of green yard in the back. And that was kind of my vision of the Southwest. As you can see, I'm kind of surreal in my style a lot of times. And Personally, I think that's because I was born on the same day as, who's that Spanish painter? Salvador Dali. So he was born on May 17th, and so was I, which is coming up in a week. So let's go over to the star of the show, which is my first attempt at a raw, nothing cooked in this, green papaya salad. So what do we have in here? Let me go grab, I'm going to set this down. You can look at the painting. So like I said, this is something I'm going to refine over the next month or so, because I've always wanted to make green papaya salad raw. So in this, I've got green papaya, I've got carrots, tomatoes, scallions, garlic chives. All sounds very familiar. But this time I've got a lot of basil, fresh basil in there. And I also have cilantro. I also have lime juice and tangerine juice and pieces of tangerines. And jalapeno peppers, of course, and then dried pepper flakes. These are dried pepper flakes. They're the things that you see in pizza parlors. Okay, they're very piquant. And they add, you know, when you're using peppers and you're making something spicy, these are really great. It also has crunched up, ground up Brazil nuts, which are soaked, and walnuts. These are just left over. So that's what I'm running with on this. If you want to add tahini, if you spoon this out into a bowl, you can add some raw tahini on top, which has got to be just the best thing in the world. The only problem is that gives you two different fats, right? Like I said before, I consider this to be a starchy meal because green papayas are starchy. Okay, they just haven't developed into their carbohydrate state. I mean, in terms of the glucose or the glucose, and so they're not sugary yet. They haven't riped, so they're very starchy. So with the carrots, this is like a starchy meal. So once again, I'm violating the principles of food combining, which I only recommend you do like once a week. This week I've done it twice, without consequences, by adding the nuts. Okay, the nuts instead of seeds and stuff like that. So if you put the tahini on there, that's two different sources of fat, and that's very much a no-no when you come to food combining. So the further away you get from food combining, the more distressful it becomes for your digestive system. And that is basically the point of food combining. You know, I'm pretty sensitive to that because I've been doing this forever. But neither one of these combinations that I've done recently have had any kind of effect on my digestion that I can tell, but these things are subtle. So anyways, that's it. That's enough quote-unquote green papaya salad. Not really, but it's the start. I'm going to learn how to make this, and it's going to be mean and green. And yeah, so that's it, So I'm kind of making these videos. I wanted to mention if you're looking for optimal health, if you're willing to put some time in and learn how to be incredibly healthy at any age, right up to the day that you decide to leave this planet, this is the kind of stuff that you got to get into, right? And believe me, I do not miss traditional American food, cooked food, animal products, any of that stuff, because I have learned how to make all these dishes, these fantastic dishes, out of basically fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, and avocados, which is all I eat. So if you are curious about having the ultimate level of health, like I say, at any age. Of course, it becomes more critical the older you get. Because if you do have a lot of bad eating habits, they're going to catch up with you. 35 years of, bad eating habits is going to put you in an early grave. None of us want to be there, okay? But this is the kind of optimal health that allows you to accomplish things in life. It allows you to be joyful and have tons of energy and not have to worry about all that stuff that old people worry about, for the most part. So anyways, that's it for tonight. This is going to be an ongoing project, green papaya salad. Green and Maine, baby. Aloha and adios.